And we're live. All right, today's going to be a good one, and you don't want to miss it. Of course, I think every Sunday is a good one, but did you know that the majority of expats that come to Costa Rica leave after about 2 years, some sooner than others? So, what happened? Well, let me say something that might surprise you. Most people don't fail in Costa Rica because of the money. They fail because of mindset, or you could say they fail because of their preconceived expectations. Well, they come here chasing peace, freedom, the pura vida life, and the desire to get off the hamster wheel. But then they get frustrated with the very things that make this place special. And here's the truth: the same things that annoy you about Costa Rica could be, I say could be, the exact things that could give you your best life if you understand them and you can adapt. So today we're going to talk about the real pros, the real challenges, and how to actually thrive, not just survive. I want to give you some practical ways to enjoy your best life in Costa Rica. But first, if this is your first time here, who is that bald-headed guy? Well, I'm Alan from the Unbridled Living in Costa Rica channel. Hey, it's the only channel not trying to sell you Costa Rica so you can buy more of my product and services. I do this because I enjoy it. I have fun. I crack myself up all the time because I think about all the mistakes I made, and I don't want you to make those same mistakes. So I don't have any product and services to sell. That one time I did do retreats, and who knows, maybe I'll do retreats again in the near future, okay? But I'm not selling you anything. I'm helping you to do what you should do. We're going to be talking about some of those things, Don't just do like I did, man. My wife said, hey, why don't we go to Costa Rica? And I'm like, why? 30 days later, we're in Costa Rica with 10 suitcases and a dog and didn't know the first word of Spanish. Yeah, you're going to get in all kind of trouble. No research. So today, I want to talk about some of those practical mindsets, things or practical things you can do to be better prepared. Now, as usual, some things might seem negative, but I'm not trying to scare you, only trying to prepare you so that when you come to Costa Rica, you'll be like, oh yeah, remember Alan talked about this, okay? So remember, before we get before we dive into the topic today, okay? Hey, make sure to be engaging. I can see there's already 8, 9, 10 people here. Hey, take a moment. It takes you 2 seconds. Hit that like button. Be engaged and leave some comments. What really makes these lives fun is when you have questions, when you put comments, whenever you're engaging, because I'm constantly looking at the chat box, and hey, I'm asking questions, I want to know your experience. The reason I have so much experience is because, hey, I traveled all over Costa Rica, lived in 25 different locations and places, but not only my experience, I have thousands upon thousands of subscribers and viewers who share what's actually happened to them. Man, I've had some subscribers who just absolutely undeniably loved Costa Rica, but then when they got con, they were like, Alan, you're right. So I want to help you to avoid that. So let me ask you a quick question right now. Okay, so as we're talking about living your best life in Costa Rica, it's important to understand it's really not about location, because almost anywhere in Costa Rica can be phenomenal. Now, obviously, there's a couple of bad places I wouldn't want to go to, but hey, that might be somewhere you like. Like, I would never live in San Jose. I would never live in Jaco, Playa Hermosa. But maybe you're that kind of person. You enjoy the party life and the craziness that goes on at Jaco, okay? Maybe you like the big city, because San Jose, well, while it's the largest city in Costa Rica, it has nothing compared to Los Angeles, New York City. It's a rural area compared to some of those big cities, okay? So, we'll talk about that. So really, it's not about location. What is it about? Well, it's really about that mindset. It's what you're dwelling on, okay? And look, I can tell you from experience, the first 8 years in Costa Rica, I wasn't thriving. I was barely surviving. Man, I was hating it, okay? But Once I got to where I had my own piece of property, I could control my environment. Things really got good, but I had to really encourage myself on a couple of things. And hey, my wife, my current wife today, said something phenomenal the other day, because my mind is always, I look at things, and we go for a walk every morning. I'm like, man, this needs to be fixed, that needs to be fixed. Why did they do that? I just don't make sense. And she reminded me. She says, hey, we're starting our day off. Instead of getting aggravated because you see something that doesn't make sense to you, hey, try to overlook it, and let's start our day off positive. Let's enjoy life. And I was like, she's preaching to the choir. I've been saying that kind of stuff to myself, but I really needed to hear her remind me. So it's some things that we're going to talk about those things. Okay, so drop a comment right now. Drop a comment. Have you visited Costa Rica yet? Because if you haven't, you need to. Okay, before you take the leap. Don't do like I did. I never visited. Barely even knew where Costa Rica was. Okay, so have you visited Costa Rica yet? If you have, put a yes in the comment that you have. If you live here already, put a comment in there. A lot of people live here, watch the channel because they're constantly trying to learn. They realize that, hey, they don't know everything. And while I don't know everything, I do have probably more experience than even the Ticos in Costa Rica. And that's just because I do so much. Most people come to Costa Rica, they move to one place, bam, that's all they do. They're not building a house, they're not doing anything. And so they don't get the experience I get. They don't work with Ticos every day. So I get to share that with you, okay? So drop a comment. Are you living here? Or are you planning on a visit? Have you not done a visit? All right, so now, real important here. Whenever here's some of the problems. People move to Costa Rica. Maybe they never made a visit to Costa Rica. However, here's what happened. Even if they did visit, when they visited, the only thing they did was they visited these touristy towns and they had a lot of fun. And that's the number one mistake so many people make. They come to Costa Rica and really they weren't planning on moving to Costa Rica. Hey man, let's go to Costa Rica. I hear it's fun. And once they get there, man, they're zip lining, horseback riding, ATVs, waterfall rappelling, and and when they're in the touristy areas, man, all of the Ticos are so friendly. They're all waving and talking, and you have to know why. Well, in Costa Rica, the touristy areas, yes, they're friendly. Why? There's an ulterior motive. They know that you're a dumb gringo and you're going to tip on every single thing. And you don't know that Costa Rica is not, let me repeat, not a tipping culture. Ask any Tico, do you tip? Nope, I ain't tipping nobody. Okay, Ticos don't tip. But in the touristy areas, you don't know any better. And we're just so used to tipping everybody. We tip the bellboy, the elevator man. We tip everybody. And so I was the other day getting gas. And, the guy pumping my gas, he says, can I get a tip? I'm like, dude, who do you think I am? You're doing your job. You want a tip for pumping gas? But see, Tico's like, well, gringos tip for everything. So, you just have to be prepared and understand it. And don't feel bad saying, oh, sorry, dude, I don't have any cash, right? All I got is a credit card. Can I swipe for a tip? Anyway, having fun. So anyway, the deal is the expectations. You really need to set your expectations, or don't set your expectations so high when you come to Costa Rica. See, a lot of people, they come here, and like I said earlier, they're chasing the dream, the peace, the slower life, pura vida. But then here's what happens. Reality hits, right? They want a slower life, but everything takes longer in Costa Rica. So you walk up to the bank, you're thinking, I'm going to deposit some money. I'm just going to walk up to the ATM machine and deposit money. And you're like, the ATM machine don't take money. I can't deposit money. I have to go in the bank. Then you go in the bank, and now you're sitting there an hour and you're like, oh gosh, dog it, man. I just want to deposit some money. You know, it's like, oh gosh, 2 hours, and so you're depositing something that normally would take you 5 minutes tops in the United States could take you 2 hours. And you're sitting there watching the tellers and the people go up there and they're not talking business. How's your mama? Oh, how's your sister? Oh, so good to see you again. Oh, yeah, you ought to come over and eat sometime. Everything takes longer. But remember, you said you were going to Costa Rica because you wanted to get off the hamster wheel. You wanted a slower pace of life. But now you're frustrated, right? Now, look, it does take time to get used to that. And if I'm not here to tell you that everything takes longer, well, you're not prepared, okay? So, hey, everything takes longer. You go to the store, you're trying to buy stuff, and you got to go to 10 different stores to find the one item you're looking for, or you're looking for towels and they got one color. They just don't have a lot of variety. So what does that mean? you moved to Costa Rica for the simple life. Guess what? It's simple. So you don't have to have 10 different colors of towels. Maybe all you need is 2 towels, one for you and one for your spouse. It's the simple life. So remember, things take longer. Hey, customer service, it's different. Well, matter of fact, let me rephrase that. There ain't no customer service in Costa Rica. It's hilarious. I remember coming here and, my first meal, and I've done drank my cerveza, and I'm like, hey, I'm thirsty. Look, there's no customer service in Costa Rica. And to top it off, when you go pay the check, they put a mandatory 10% tip as if they earned a tip for their fantastic customer service. So you just have to know that things are going to be different. And so what you have to do is, I'm finally getting to the point in my life that I can laugh about some of these things. And so we go somewhere, we just know we're going to go get some food. If I eat at a typical restaurant, it's not going to taste, it's going to have no flavor. I can go eat at a soda, and sometimes the sodas are better and they're always cheaper. But if I go to like a Japanese, or I go to a foreign-owned soda, most of our foreign-owned restaurant, usually it's got good flavor, and that restaurant will be packed with people, because even Ticos like flavorful food. They just don't cook flavorful food. Okay, so I'm just kind of giving you some scenarios, some examples. Okay, so like I said, things take longer. There is no customer service. Nothing seems to be urgent. I mean, it doesn't matter what's going on, and to you, it's like it's an emergency, 911. But it's no emergency in Costa Rica. So no one's in a hurry. It's like 911 call. The last 911 call I had, dude is dying. He hasn't moved off the couch. He hasn't eaten in 2 weeks. And the EMT gets out of the elevator and she starts taking photos. I'm like, no, you're not taking photos. This is a 911 call, right? Well, nothing in Costa Rica is urgent. And let's not forget, okay, how most of the locals, now I said most, I didn't say every one of them, and let's not get crazy. When anyone says every, it doesn't mean every, but most of the Ticos. Now, I got some great Tico friends, but most Ticos look at you, an gringo, an expat, as a walking ATM machine. And immediately, the only thing they're thinking is, how can I get a little bit of that money? How can I get a little bit of that pie? No, I don't want a little bit of pie. I want all of the pie. They're looking for ways to take advantage of you. And that's not all of them. I do have some really, really great friends, but it's like I was telling my wife earlier. It's in every country, you got people taking advantage of you. But in Costa Rica, in other countries, that's usually the minority. In Costa Rica, it's the majority. It's the minority of the Ticos that are really good people. And it's hard to find those minorities, but they're there. There are some really good people. Okay. So, here's where the people that leave in 2 years, here's where they mess up. Okay. They're thinking about all these things I've talked about. And all I talked about was 4 little old things. But these things that I talked about, they're thinking that these are problems. No, they're not problems. You see, they haven't realized that this is just the way life works here. Why is that? Okay. Well, that brings me to the number one most important thing you can do if you want to thrive in Costa Rica. And that is to understand the culture. You need to do a lot of research on the culture. You need to understand the culture, because when you're pissed off that everything takes long in Costa Rica, then you have to realize the reason it takes long is the culture is never in a hurry unless they get behind the wheel of a car, and then they drive like a madman, and they don't care if they're going to kill you and 10 other people. Okay, they're never in a hurry. So everything does take longer. They're all about family, which means if they're taking your money, but then they meet a friend on the way, they might talk for 15 minutes before they come see you. They're never in a hurry. Customer service. Well, there is no such thing as customer service. It's the culture. To them, they didn't do anything wrong. This is the way we eat at home. If you want water, get up and go get you some more, right? Get up and come get me. I'm just not going to bother you. I'm barely going to do my job. But they barely do their job because the culture, the government protects them and says, once you get hired after that 3-month time period, it's almost impossible to fire them. And so they know they can do the bare minimum. And as long as they do the bare minimum, they're going to have a job. And even if they get fired, they're going to have to get this crazy severance pay that, most employers don't want to pay. It's the culture, right? So, and like I said, they are looking at you and trying to take advantage of you, trying to get the gringo price right. It's the culture. Understanding that most people, the majority of the people in Costa Rica, are living on $1,000 to $1,500, living on under $2,000 a month. And heck, look, a couple of weeks ago, I'm flying back from Miami, talking to this girl sitting right next to me. She's from Miami. She's telling me how she's paying $2,700 in rent. So now she's sharing it with a roommate, but who pays $2,700 in rent? Come on. Costa Rica, unless you're really getting taken advantage of, I've rented houses as cheap as $90 a month, $100 a month, most expensive $600 a month, okay? All unfurnished, okay? So when I'm thinking she's paying $2,700 in rent, most Ticos are living around $1,500. How can you pay? How can they pay? So you can understand Ticos, when they see an expat, yeah, you're rich in their eyes and you've got too much money. Okay. So it's important to understand all these things that, you think are problems. They're not problems. It's the culture. I would say 99% of the things that you get aggravated about, it's not a problem. It's the culture. Everything that you're aggravated about, if you understood the culture, you can tie it back to, well, it's the culture. Now, important here. When you come to Costa Rica, some people say, you just got to become a Tico. No, I don't want to become a Tico. Man, I am a Cajun French American, proud of my heritage. I don't want to be a Tico, don't want to be like Ticos. I love my Tico neighbors, but I'm mean. I'm on time. So just because I come to Costa Rica and I got an appointment with somebody and I tell them I'm going to be there tomorrow, I'm going to be there tomorrow. Understand, not in Costa Rica. If they tell you they're going to be tomorrow to fix your plumbing or fix your toilet, it might be 3 days later. You've been pooping in a bucket for 3 days because your toilet don't work, okay? So understand, it's the culture. So when you really, number one, understand the culture, then you're like, okay, if you really don't like the culture, you need to move. Those are the people that they just haven't had the ability to adapt. And I'll be honest, there's been many times I was ready to move because I don't like the culture. But important, I respect the culture. Now, man, I used to be bad. I'd be trying to check out. I'm trying to pay my bill, and they're taking forever. And I'm standing there, and I'm like, they could see it all over my facial expression, right? And I've gotten a lot better. I've gotten to where, okay, I'm just like, okay, chill. 15 minutes. She's going to come by here and I'm going to finally get my change or whatever. I've learned to adapt. And if you can learn to adapt, so like I said earlier, if you can understand and if you can adapt, you can enjoy your best life in Costa Rica. Okay. So, understand the culture and life will get better for you really, really fast. So, hey, we're sitting here talking about, and I'm giving you a ton of examples. Hey, give me some examples. Drop a comment and let me know. What are some of the things that when you came to Costa Rica, you were like, dude, I was shocked. I got so frustrated at this. Okay, drop a comment. Let me know, what was it that frustrated you the most when you came to Costa Rica? I'd like to know. Share with me. That's how I learn more about what other people are experiencing too. All right. So I'm looking at some of these questions here. And like Eduardo, he says, once you get, you got to get it into your gringo head that everything is mañana. In other words, they say they're going to be tomorrow, but it might be someone. No one's in a hurry. They might not come for 2 or 3 days. He's agreeing, right? And he's like, well, the bank, because they know that, everyone in the bank, they know everybody. And so they're just visiting and talking. And look, if you had a restaurant and a soccer game comes on, forget getting any service or calling anyone to help you, because everybody's watching the soccer game. A lot of things get, that's one of the things that frustrated with me so much, because I'm trying to just enjoy a peaceful meal. And when the soccer game come on, man, the restaurant owner turns it on and it's so loud. And, oh, man, it can just drive you nuts. So, this guy says, I figure I'm a guest and I need to adapt. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because that is the truth. Whether you're a resident, whether you have actually been here long enough to get your citizenship, if you're an expat, you're not a cold-blooded Tico born and raised in Costa Rica. You're a guest. You are a guest, okay? And you need to adapt, and you need to respect the culture, okay? And look, I had an email just a couple of days ago. I won't mention his name, but the guy says, hey, he was, I was talking about driving earlier, and he was coming around a curve in a blind curve when this guy in a government vehicle passes and they collide, okay? Well, fortunately, shockingly, he wasn't found at fault. Now, just because you're a gringo, the majority of times you're going to be found at fault, okay? But he wasn't found at fault. I don't know if he had a camera in his vehicle or what. He didn't give me the details. He wasn't found at fault. And it took over a year before INS, the insurance company in Costa Rica, was ready to give him money for repairs. But he had already spent like $3,600 in repairs, but they only wanted to give him $2,700. Okay, so now he contacts me and he says, what should I do? I said, count your blessings, dude. You're extremely lucky that you're getting that, okay? Because in Costa Rica, I have been here, and I've shared this story before, where I was coming out of Walmart and it was raining a little bit, and so it's 2-lane road, and so I'm on the outside lane, and I'm going, and I'm, you pull in. Well, you're going to start. You're slow at first. You get faster and faster. Well, it just so happened there was a guy that was on the outside lane. He was a good ways behind me, but there was nobody on the inside lane, so he could have easily gone around. Well, I don't know what he got up on the wrong side of the bed or what, but I mean, when I pulled out, I had plenty of room. He's blowing his horn. And I'm like, dude, are you crazy? And I'm just driving, and then he gets beside me. And when he gets beside me, he's blowing his horn, and he's looking, and he's like, that's a gringo. And he gets closer and closer, and pow! He sideswipes me on purpose, okay? He pull over. And as soon as I pull over, now I noticed he had 2 women in his car. I'm by myself. And he says, you better have a lot of money. This dude could speak English. He knew what he was doing. I immediately called up my best friend, Tico. He says, tell me what you need to do. And he says, Alan, you're not going to win this deal. He's got 2 women in there. They're going to lie. They're going to say it was your fault. You better get out of there. Hey, this guy actually wasn't found at fault, and INS is going to give him $2,700. He spent $3,700. Maybe he's going to lose $1,000. Hey, that's just life in Costa Rica, okay? Just like this guy said, hey, you're a guest. I don't care if you've been here 20 years. You're a guest. I don't care if you're a resident, a citizen. You're a guest, and you need to understand that in most cases you have little to no rights in Costa Rica, but you can still enjoy your best life in Costa Rica when you begin to start focusing on the positives. You didn't come here for the driving. You didn't come here for to make friends with the ticos. You know, you didn't come here because of the good food. Nobody. Why did you come to Costa Rica? Man, I heard they had the best food around. No, people move to Cajun country when they want the best food around. Okay. So, you know, this guy says, hey, motorcycle drivers are the worst drivers. And, you know, man, look, I'm a motorcycle driver too. And I have adapted to where I'm splitting the lane and I'm going across. I am safer though, because you can die on a motorbike. And, but anyway, that is true. You got to watch out for the motorbike riders. Okay. So hey, I'm glad that you shared with me some of your frustrations. Okay. So let's take a look at how you can make the shift. Okay. So here's another mistake that a lot of people make. They come from the United States or their country, and it's usually the United States, because in the United States, we're spoiled. We are spoiled. We got convenience. We got everything. You can go into one store, buy everything. There's a billion varieties of everything, okay? So if you come to Costa Rica and you try to make it like where you came from, you're going to die a very fast death. I'm telling you, it's just, you're going to be frustrated forever because, you know, you come to the United States, the whole reason you came here, the slower pace to get off the hamster wheel. You know, you're looking for that Pura Vida lifestyle. Okay, you don't have to be Pura Vida yourself, but you're trying to, you know, maybe you want to retire. You're tired of that hamster wheel. So when you come here, if you try to make Costa Rica like it is in the United States, dude, that's a losing battle. Okay, but if you come to Costa Rica and when you learn the culture, and if you can adapt to Costa Rica, whoa, now that's when life gets good. Hey, 5 years ago, I moved on to this property where I could control my environment, okay? And I began to adapt. I got, because in the first 8 years, I stayed frustrated and aggravated everywhere I went. I couldn't get away from the people, okay? Well, I got on my property. It's remote, man. I don't have to listen to motorcycles. I don't have to listen to the immature punks doing wheelies down the highway. You know, I don't have to worry about, you know, the chickens coming into my yard and crowing. You know, I can control my environment. It's nice, right? Man, the only thing I got to worry about, and I wish I could share this video with you, the only thing I'm worried about is the monkey that was stealing my bananas on that tree right there. It was hilarious. My wife and I, Angel, we walked out there and it's like, look. And we sat there waiting for that monkey to come steal the bananas. And look, I don't mind the monkey stealing my bananas. He's going to take one or two and he's going to be gone, right? But we had fun watching the monkeys. Well, that's why I came to Costa Rica. I wanted to enjoy nature, okay? So that brings me to another point, okay? So remember, life gets good when you can adapt. So let's break it down just a little bit. Slow becomes peaceful when you can adapt, okay? Less convenience means freedom. You realize you really don't need all of this stuff. And simple, well, it becomes meaningful because now you're able to do more. It's a simpler life, okay? But how about some practical steps, you know, on how you can live your best life in Costa Rica? So I told you, you know, in the intro, I want to give you some practical steps, okay? So here's some practical steps. This is your homework. Write it down. Here's some practical steps on how to enjoy your best life. And you know, I know a lot of you watch my channel because I'm not trying to sell you Costa Rica, okay? I don't have anything to sell you. I don't have any products and services. And so, you know, I'm usually talking about a lot of negative stuff, but I don't want to always talk about negative stuff. I'm always trying to prepare you, but I want to help you to enjoy your best life in Costa Rica. And so here's some things you can do. Before you get here, learn the different regions, right? On my channel, when I talk about the best places to live, you know, I did a series, and it was a couple of years ago, but it's still very accurate, okay? So learn the regions. But when I say that, go back and look for the best places to live on my channel. There's a PDF that you can download. gives you a ton of information of all these different regions. And I think I picked the 5 top best regions that I had lived at, and I gave you the regions, information, hospitals, all that. Go to that link and download that PDF. Just phenomenal information. Okay, so you want to learn the regions, understand the climate, and in that PDF I talk about that. And you want to understand the cost of living. You know, I've done another video on the cost of living, on how you can live on under $1,000 a month. You ain't gonna like it, okay, but you can. And I know expats that are living here on under $1,000 a month. It's really on if you can adapt and if you can adjust, right? And so if you're living on under $1,000 a month and you're an expat, well, you've learned that gallo pinto is which is beans and rice and eggs, is a staple, and you're going to eat it every morning. You've learned that while gallo pinto is your beans and rice, well, guess what? Lunch is rice and beans, and ain't a whole lot different about it. And you might be eating gallo pinto for breakfast and rice and beans for lunch and supper. You know, it's very, very different. You might actually be boiling green bananas. People do that here. Boiling green bananas. Kind of tastes like potatoes. It's hard as heck to do, but you won't catch me boiling green bananas, okay? But I like my ripe banana. You will catch me boiling some ripe bananas and making some banana beano. Woo-hoo! Banana wine is some of the best wine you can ever make. Wow. I can't wait to make a new batch of that. Matter of fact, we had a couple of big bunches of bananas out of the tree, and we got them down, hung them. Once they all turned yellow, we peeled them, put them in the freezer. Woo! I think I'm going to make time to make some wine real soon. Real soon. So anyway, learn the regions, understand the climate, learn the cost of living. Keep doing your research. What you're doing right now is research. Now, don't watch only my channel. Don't watch only Sarah Elena's channel. Okay, Sarah Elena, she's got products and services to sell you. She hardly ever talks about any of the bad things. And when she talks about bad things, she's like, yeah, it takes 2 hours to go to the bank. That's, you know, she's not talking about how you're a walking ATM machine. She ain't talking about how you're going to get ripped off. She ain't talking about how you'll get sideswiped, okay? She talks about stupid stuff that don't make any sense. But I'm not saying don't watch her channel, okay? Watch her channel because she might actually have some information, but take it with a grain of salt, okay? Know that there's a ulterior motive behind every single video, and she's not the only one. There's other channels out there, but you know what? There's other channels other than mine that maybe they're not trying to sell you an ulterior motive. They're actually trying to help you, but those are few and far between because it's a lot of effort to make videos, and it does not pay out well. YouTube pays me hard peanuts, and they're not even worth cracking and eating. Okay, so anyway. You know, JR says, I agree with you about respecting the culture. You know, as a guest, stop trying to colonize someone else's country. Absolutely. You know, come down here and enjoy it. You know, that's one of the reasons I live real remote. You know, I've got one neighbor that's about 200 meters away from me. He comes up here. You know, he used to use my internet all the time. He just recently got Starlink, and the only reason he got Starlink is because his daughter, she's going to college, and she's got lots and lots of classes. She was always coming up here, and the college classes are late at night. Costa Rica does things weird, and so anyway, he finally got it so that she can be in her room to take college classes instead of coming up, staying in one of my rooms, so that she could take her college classes. So anyway, so do your research. Don't only watch my channel, watch many other channels. But when you're watching a channel, go to their channel and find out, is someone that lives in Costa Rica, or is this someone that came here on vacation and they're just sharing their perspective? Don't waste your time watching someone that's like, hey, I went on vacation. No, they can't tell you anything, okay? They don't know anything about Costa Rica. Vacation videos are worthless. So find the right channels to do your research. And look, you can do a ton of research, Google, and there's Facebook pages, a lot of things, okay? But do your research, okay? Now, also, before you decide to move, make sure you visit. So, come down here and when you visit, listen close, write this down. When you come to visit, if you say, hey, maybe you're 65 years old and you're like, I just want to enjoy the life. I don't even want a car. I'm just going to use public transportation. Good. You can do that. Nothing wrong with that. But when you come to visit Costa Rica, don't you rent a car. You come to Costa Rica, you do exactly what you're going to do when you're living here. Get the full living here experience. Use the public transportation if you're not going to buy a car. Go to the sodas and eat a meal. Go and have gallo pinto. Go and have just a traditional Costa Rican meal, right? Go into some of the small Tico stores. Experience how you get zero to no customer service, okay? Go to the bank, right? And stand in line and ask them about how you want to open up a bank account, or, see how long it takes. Get the full experience, man. Get embodied in the Costa Rica experience. And that way you'll have a true feeling of what is Costa Rica really like. So don't come here on vacation and then say, man, I had a great time. Yeah, I think I'll live there. No, you don't want to do that, okay? When you come, visit like you live here already, okay? So, when you come here, stay as long as you can. Don't stay for a week. Stay for 30 days. Stay for 60 days, right? And begin to learn the culture. When you come here, your neighbors are immediately going to try to be friends with you because there's an ulterior motive, but that's all right. Be friends with them. Know that there's an ulterior motive. Let them invite you to go eat at their house, right? Build a few relationships. Enjoy that slower pace. If you do that, then you're going to experience the real Costa Rica. And while you're visiting, if something is bothering you here, well, then ask yourself, is it actually a problem or is it just the culture? And if you're learning about the culture, you're going to realize, okay, that's just the culture. That's never going to change. It's not. It's like, okay, it's only happened here. I had a bad experience with. No, it's the culture. It's always going to be that way. Always has been. Always will be. Always has been. Always will be. Never going to change. It's the culture. You don't change culture. Okay, it's just the way it is. You have to learn to adapt and overcome, as we say in the Marine Corps. Adapt and overcome. Adapt and overcome. Adapt and accept the culture. Okay. So, hey, let me take a break right here. Drop a comment. Let me know something that surprised you about the Costa Rican culture. Tell me. I'd like, give me some input. What surprised you about the Costa Rica culture? Eduardo shares this, and he says, never take a red taxi. Never. And once again, that's part of the culture, okay? Because the red taxis will cheat you. Even though they got a meter, okay? Just because they got a meter don't mean they won't cheat you, okay? Rebecca shared with me that she went, took a bus all the way to San Jose, got off the bus stop. She was kind of in a hurry. She thought, okay, it's not that far. I'll just take a red taxi. And the red taxi says, yeah, I got a meter right there. Well, once he got there, the meter said it was like 18,000 kilometers. He says, it's $50. She's like, no, the meter says no, it's $50. And he was adamant. And because her suitcase was locked up in the trunk, she had no choice but to pay the $50. See, so never take a red taxi driver. Okay, what's the solution, Alan? Download the Uber app. And if you download the Uber app, man, you can get decent rides almost anywhere in Costa Rica. There are some small towns that may not have Ubers, drivers, but for the most part, it has grown and grown and grown. Use an Uber, okay? Now, see, Esquire shares about the culture. He says, so far, we like the culture. Esquire is ready to get off the hamster wheel because he says, when he was in the United States, he was in the rat race for way too many years. So you see, when you get here, it depends on where you're at. A lot of Costa Rica is about your perspective, right? Your expectations are too high. You're going to have challenges, right? But if you can learn to adapt and overcome, you're going to find out how great it can be, okay? For me, once I got to my property, this is why I came here. The atmosphere. I'm like, oh my gosh, look at the climate. I wish I could I think I can turn my camera around, and I'm going to show you the view that I have while I'm talking to you. So let's see what I hope my camera is going to show. So I don't know if it's going to show the mountains, okay? But look, I got the mountain views right there. It's an absolutely beautiful day, okay? Let's see if I could share right here. There's the monkey. There's the trees right there, the banana trees that the monkeys were trying to steal bananas out of. I mean, I just have this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful spot right here. And, life for me just can't get any better. I'm telling you. I came here for the climate. I came here for nature. And if you came here for nature, you will never run out of things to do. Now, if you didn't come here for nature, if you're a person that you need to be entertained all the time, dude, don't come to Costa Rica. Don't come to Costa Rica. There's just nothing to do. If you're the kind of person, hey, this weekend we played putt-putt. Next weekend we went bowling. Next weekend we went to the golf course. Next weekend we went race car driving. If you're that kind of person, don't go to Costa Rica. There's only two things you can do in Costa Rica. You can go to the bar and restaurant, or you can go on nature trails. Okay, that's it. You can go visit wildlife. You can go to the bar. There's nothing to do in Costa Rica. You can watch football. Okay, 3 things. I lied. So, you got to adapt. If you like to be entertained, man, you're going to be frustrated beyond frustrated. Okay. So adjust your expectations. Understand things are going to take longer. That's just life in Costa Rica. Okay. But hey, understand what frustration is. Frustration is just unmet expectations. Your expectation was going to be like it was the United States, but no, it's not. Okay. So understand, and here's something that's key as I get ready to close. Okay. When you come to Costa Rica, man, build a life, not just an escape, right? This is where a lot of people get it wrong, because they come here and some people, they're shopping around and they're looking for a house to buy. And so that might take 6-7 months and they're having a good time. Or they decide, hey, maybe we can build a house. And then they get all into that planning phase. Now it's a year, 2 years, the house is finally built, but they're not building a life. They bought a house, they built a house, and now they're like, now what? Now they're bored out of their mind. They're like, dang, we can only eat out so many times. There ain't that much different food here. What can we do? And they get bored. So it's real important. You come to Costa Rica, don't just come here to escape, but build something, okay? Have a project, have a purpose, have a community, right? And there's a lot of gringo expat communities, right? Where you can join with them and they're doing things together. In San Isidro, man, they go to Bazooka's restaurant. They focus in on the expats and they sit there and play cards in the restaurant, okay? But they're constantly buying food, okay? So that's what they do. But there's, have a project, have a purpose. Me, I'm building an off-grid homestead. Dude, I just put 200 koi in the ponds I'm building out here, right? Wow, okay? And I just got through building this humongous trout pond, and this month sometime I'm supposed to go get some little old baby trout, and I'm going to have an unlimited supply of trout. So, have a project, do something. If you're not used to having hobbies, think of what you would like to do and do it. So you really can just enjoy life if you build a life here, not just try to escape from life, okay? Now, this person says, hey, please thank Angel. She inspired one of your best podcasts. Well done to both of you. I'm getting choked up here. Multiple perspectives give the fullest picture of the Costa Rica experience. Absolutely. So Angel, he says thank you, or she says thank you for the inspiration of today's podcast. Hey, that means a lot. I'm glad that you put that out there. So, so let's talk about who Costa Rica is for and who it's not for, okay, real quick. And I'll just be straight with you, okay? Costa Rica is for people that want peace, people that love nature. You'll never be sorry. You'll never be let down, okay? People that are willing to adapt. Now, who is it not for? Well, if you need to have control, forget it. If you expect everything to be like the United States, forget it. If you're unwilling to change, forget it, okay? If you're looking to be entertained, forget it. It's not for you. So Costa Rica, it is a simple life. And you're like, nature? Come on. Dude, there's so much that you can do to enjoy nature. And, take a look at what Playa Rico says. He says, dude, like it is. You're speaking facts, and definitely for some and not for all. Absolutely. Costa Rica, hey, it's not for everybody. That's for sure. Okay. And when I was doing relocation retreats, I let people know right up front, look, when you get here, you're going to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I probably will talk you out of coming to Costa Rica. And if I've talked you out of coming to Costa Rica, I don't feel bad about that because I've done my job. That's the purpose of you coming to a relocation retreat, is so that I can educate you, share my experience, and you could say, nope, I wouldn't be able to hang with that culture. So you know what? I'm going to go see if I can find a better place to live. Okay, I'll find something different. I will stop researching Costa Rica. Okay, so absolutely, it's not for everyone. So, I told you, who's it for? It's for people that want peace, love nature, willing to adapt. Okay, it's not for people that need control, want everything to be like the U.S., unwilling to change, looking to be entertained all the time. Drop a comment right now. Let me know, where do you think you are right now? Are you someone that, hey, Costa Rica sounds like for me right now, but maybe it's not for me because I like to be entertained. My brother, my younger brother, he absolutely, he has heard all kind of stuff from me, and he's like, I know Costa Rica is not for me. My brother's the kind of guy, he likes to go to Bed Bath and Beyond. He wants to pick up the nicest stuff for his house. He don't want to waste any time looking around at 10 different stores. He likes the finer things in life. He likes quality. You don't get quality in Costa Rica. If you want quality, you go to the United States, you buy it, you put it in your suitcase, you bring it back. And that's what I do, okay? Believe it or not, I actually save money taking a round trip ticket, buy all the stuff, come back. If I add it all up, I've saved money. Okay, so tell me, which one are you? Hey, do you think you can handle Costa Rica? Do you think you are willing to adapt and overcome? So, hey, so as we get ready to close right here, and I can't wait to take questions, right? Tell me, okay? Costa Rica is either going to frustrate you or it's going to free you. Sounds like to me, according to Esquire, he says, Costa Rica is kind of boring after the United States. But he says, so far, we like the Costa Rica culture because he got tired of the rat race. So you see, sounds like to me, Esquire got freed from the hamster wheel. And man, he's a happy little hamster running all around his house, and he ain't worried about the wheel no more. See, Costa Rica is either going to frustrate you or it's going to free you. But really, the difference is not the country. It's not whether you're in Costa Rica, Panama, Nicaragua. The difference is your perspective. Okay. Number one, and it's what Angel told me when we were walking, let's focus on the positive. How can we enjoy our best life now? Well, I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, Angel and I are enjoying our best life now. I just don't know how life could get any better. I mean, obviously there are problems, but guess what? I'm not focusing on the problems, because if I focus on the problems, I get this constant noise, and then I'm not happy. I'm frustrated. Focus on the positive. It's like, you know what? Yeah, this could be better, but you know what? I don't have to worry about it. I'm living in Costa Rica. I'm enjoying life. Look at this weather. I got monkeys to play with. Focus on the positive. I'm never too cold. I'm never too hot. Focus on the positive. So here it is. If you come with the right heart, okay, with the right attitude, this place will not only change where you live, it's going to change how you live. And I can tell you, that's one of the most freeing things you can ever experience when you learn how to enjoy your best life now in Costa Rica. All right, folks, let's take questions. Woo! I have enjoyed this podcast today. Tell me, have you enjoyed the podcast? All right. I said, I don't know how life can get better. And this person said, life gets better when you have your kids. I 1000% agree. Woo! I can't wait. Can't wait to have children. So Angel's excited. We can't wait. And of course, I'm doing my part, and that's the reason I'm having some crystal beer today. This is my crystal cerveza, because you know what? If I drink too much cerveza, too much alcohol, it's not good for fertilization. So yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up. Life does get better. I love kids. I have always loved children. So hey, give me your input. Give me your questions. I'll scan through here, but I really didn't see any questions. I did see a few comments and stuff in here. But if you have questions on any topic, not just about living your best life, really today you can, this is one of these podcasts that you really could ask just about anything, and it would pertain to living your best life in Costa Rica. So what questions that you have, hey, maybe tell me what's the one thing that is really holding you back. And here's just an example. A lot of people are worried about, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if this happens? And look, I totally understand. It's possible it could happen. But here's one question she asked, and I'm not being mean or ugly, but she's asked, what happens if you get bit by a bat? Do the research. Do you know very few people, the odds of getting bit by a bat are slim to none. I think you could probably win the lottery before you get bit by a bat. I see bats all the time here. So, well, what happens if you run into a jaguar? You understand that the wildlife is far more scared of you than you are of them. What about the snakes? The snakes are more scared of you. You see a snake, he's hitting the road, Jack. Don't come back no more, no more, no more. So don't be worried about all of the ifs, right? What about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? Because most of the time, those ifs will never happen, okay? All right, great question. What is the best system for hot water? Tankless on demand is a soft water system needed. Most of the time, you do not need a soft water system. I did find, like, when I was house sitting over on the Nicoya Peninsula, we were down in Carmona, and they had some hard water. I mean, their faucets, the rain showers, they would get calcium all in there. So there might be a few areas that you might need a soft water system. Most cases you don't. But to answer your question, the best hot water system, do not get a tank, because the more electricity you use, the more expensive it gets in Costa Rica. I have a tankless hot water system on demand, tankless on demand hot water, propane, not electricity. Don't get electricity. Tankless on demand propane system. Dude, Angel, she, women in general love to wash their hair and, love to take long, hot showers. Well, when I'm cooking with propane, or when she's cooking with propane tank might last us 3 months. Propane tank for the shower might last us 1 month, 1.5 months. But come on, what is propane? $14, right? So it's well worth it. I hope that answered answered your question. Oh, wait a minute now. Esquire puts in solar. I don't have a solar system, but I'm actually thinking about putting in a solar hot water system. I do have solar. That's where we get our electricity from. But I installed a solar hot water system for the people that we were building a house. I didn't install it myself. I supervised the job, and I made all the arrangements to get this solar system in for them. And obviously, right at first, I was getting a Gringo Pisces trying to charge me $3,000 or $4,000, and I found the exact same one for $1,500. Okay, so $1,500, and they got in a solar system. So some of these solar hot water systems simply work off of straight solar, but sometimes, in Costa Rica, maybe the water's not going to get that hot because in the winter season, there's not enough sun. And so they got this backup system that it will tie into your electricity and keep the water up to a certain degree if it fails to get that hot during the day. So Esquire says that they've installed 3 of them at their location. I know he's got 2 houses there, but I think his house is pretty big. Anyway, so having a solar hot water system is definitely an option depending on where you're living at. Like where I live at right now, the house I'm currently in, it's too shady. A solar hot water system wouldn't work here. I would have to actually put that thing out there in the field, okay? So solar hot water system wouldn't work for me here, but I know that I'm going to expand, and when I expand, I could then put in a solar hot water system. All right, what other questions we have? And I can't believe that we are going on to, we're closing in on the top of the hour already. And I have to say, I have definitely enjoyed our time today. Okay. So, hey, What other questions did you have? I'd like to get your input. Tell me what's the biggest frustration? What is the big if? What is it that's keeping you from coming to Costa Rica? I'm not trying to convince you to come to Costa Rica, but maybe if I knew what is the hurdle, what's the thing that's keeping you from coming to Costa Rica? Well, if I knew what that hurdle is, maybe I can share my experience on it if I have experience on it. Or maybe I know someone, maybe someone's in the chat right now that has had experience. And before we close down, hey, look, there's 19, 20 people here. Do me a big favor. It'd help me tremendously to support the channel by hitting that like button. Hit that like button. Hit that thumbs up. Share, comment, be engaging, especially after the video is over. Take a moment to, chat. Leave some comments underneath the video. Say the same thing you've already said. Tell me how you liked it, what you didn't like. And that way you can, it helps to push the video out there, okay? So, things are always changing in Costa Rica. And so you have to be willing to adapt. And Esquire says, you and I admit a few others help a bit on the Costa Rica decision. But, for the majority of the channels, the reason they're there is to monetize their channel, to try to make some money. But there are a few people out there that are actually trying to help. And Magnum says, hey, I like the podcast. I live in Costa Rica 20 years ago for 2 years. Well, Magnum, I'd like to know, what is it, Magnum, that why did you move after 2 years? Because I started out this whole podcast on, the majority of the people that come here leave after 2 years. Why was it you left? Did you not like it? Did you have family issues? I'd like to share. I'd like to get that info if you're willing to share. And this guy says, hey, Uber versus getting a rental car. All right. I tell you what, I'd be willing to bet rental cars can be expensive in Costa Rica, man. It can run you $1,000 a week. But I can almost guarantee you, if you get an Uber, if you're in a decent sized city, you can get an Uber and you can travel all over by Uber and not spend nowhere near $1,000. So, hey, I haven't personally tested that, but I've ridden in a lot of Ubers, and that's a good question, because thinking about it, man, I could literally come to Costa Rica, travel around for a week or 2 weeks, and Uber everywhere I want to go and have a great time and not waste $1,000 or $3,000 on a rental car. Shishong says, good info as always. Thank you very much. Magnum gives me an answer, and he says, I couldn't make money there. I am retired from the Army now, so that's not a problem. Well, very good, soldier. Hey, glad to hear you serve just like me. And you know what? Once you're retired and you got a check, you can absolutely live. And so here's a question in case you're wondering, because I did do a video. You can live on $1,000 a month. But I tell you what, and it's like I told you about that girl who's paying $2,700 a month in rent. If you had $2,500, $2,700 a month on your retirement, you can almost live like a king. Okay, maybe not quite a king, but you can live pretty dang good on $2,500, even on $2,000. You might need to pinch pennies, be careful, but look, it does not take a lot of money. And it goes back, I saw a comment earlier, and it's really early in here. I'm going to see if I can see it here. Because this guy, he says, it's cheaper for him to live. Right here, he says, Eduardo says, Costa Rica is cheaper for me to live. He says, I don't pay rent, only food. He goes to the Palace, the farmer's market, the local butcher to get his veggies, herbs. So when you compare apples to apples, okay, this woman I was talking to on the plane, paying $2,700 rent. Well, you'll never pay $2,700 rent. So let's apples to apples. You pay rent and you're living in Miami. You pay rent in Costa Rica and you might be paying $600. Let's just say you pay $800. Okay. Well, you can live cheaper in Costa Rica when you compare apples to apples. Now, yes, groceries are going to be expensive, right? But hey, groceries are expensive everywhere, okay? But when you're in Costa Rica, if you want to, you can start growing your own groceries. That's what I said. Build a life. Don't get bored. Start gardening. Start doing something. And when I say gardening, you don't have to have a huge piece of property. You can have raised beds, and you can do a little research. We're getting ready to put in our garden. Matter of fact, I had a dozer here last week that leveled off the spot where we're going to put in garden. It's full of rocks, so we're going to put raised beds in there and put in some good black soil. So you can most definitely, enjoy life if you decide to build a life instead of just escaping life, okay? All right, folks, we're at the top of the hour. Hey, I have had a blast. Thank you so much for being with me. Thank you so much for all the engagement, all the people that were here. I hope to see you again next Sunday. We're getting closer and closer to Semana Santa. Okay, what is that? Holy Week, okay? Holy Week's going to be really busy around here, but in most of Costa Rica, everything shuts down during Holy Week. All the government offices shut down in Holy Week. So don't try to get anything done during that time, okay? All right, y'all have a great one. We'll see you next week.